in a minute, I'll explain why we're all jammed in here, why it's a long Hey, there's a whole front row empty. How did that? That's not really a writer's house thing. I just want to ask you, in a minute I will explain sort of in a mission philosophical sense why we're all here, why there's so many of us, why it might be hotter than it should be, why it's worth staying for the whole program. But first, what I wanted to do, since Perren is just about to walk in, what I wanted to do was ask the seniors we're celebrating to, hey, Perren, good morning. Everybody say good morning to Perren on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. We love you, Perren. Good morning. There's seats in the front. There's like Perren family reservations in the front. We're celebrating a bunch of fabulous creative geniuses today, and what we want to do is start by asking them each to stand as we call their names so that you can see who they are, because most families are here for one of them, but the fact is that they are all, just imagine any one of them standing in for yours. This is the way families should work. Families are this thing that help you imagine any other family, right? And imagine feeling as strongly about any one of these people as you do for your own, and you will then get a pretty good sense of how we feel at this moment. So I'm going to ask them to stand, and then I'm going to ask those who are here for that senior, in honor of that senior, just to raise your hand so we know who you are and you can identify yourself. So first of all, Fiona Jensen-Hitch. Will you stand, Fiona? And you can put your hands together. There's no... And Fiona's people, they came, I think, from New Mexico. Am I right? Yeah. Okay, they're coming, though. They're still on the way from New Mexico. Okay. Fantastic. Well, we're glad you're here. Charlie Sosnick. Charlie, will you stand? There's Charlie. Yay, Charlie. And the Sosnick people, will you raise your hand? Hi. All right. Torinn Fennelly. Torinn, where's Torinn? Hey, Torinn. And the Torinn people. Hello, Torinn people. This whole row of them. Navya Dasari. Where's Navya? Hey, Navya. And the Navya people, raise your hand. Hi. Oh, you're spread all around. You're doing the right thing. That is a cool procedure. I like that. Caroline Harris. Caroline, yeah. And the Caroline people, a long way from California, although brother is in New York. He was quick to remind me. I think I saw James come in. James, will you come in and just wave at us? There's James. Hey. And James's people? Not here yet. Okay, they're coming. Annie Fang. Annie. Oh. You're graduating? Please do not. Annie people. Yeah, there they are. Hi, congratulations. Emily Schwartz is right up here. And there is almost a whole row of Schwartz people from Chicago. Miri Jesuthasan, where is Miri? And Miri's people. Hey, Miri's people. Oh, you're spread around too. Hi. Cole Bauer. Way to go, Cole. And Cole's people, I saw them, and they're in the back row. Cool. Autumn Wynde is over here. Hey, Autumn. And Autumn's people, yeah, they got the corners sewed up. Emily Rush. Hi, Emily. And Emily's people are on the other side, so they can look at Emily the entire time. See? Sabrina Qiao, where's Sabrina? There she is. And Sabrina's people right back there. Perren is here. And Perren, will you stand up? Perren Carillo. And you prefer Carillo, not Carillo, not Carillo. Carillo. Perren is here. And Perren's people? Right here. Oh, this is amazing. Okay. Lilli Leight. Hi, Lilli. And all of Lilli's people. They're in that whole row there. Big look. Adelaide Powell. I didn't see Adelaide this morning. She's at Amberg coming. Okay. We'll point her out when she comes. Izzy Lopez is right here. Hey, Izzy. And Izzy's people. Darby Levin. Darby is right there. Darby Levin right there. And Darby's people are mom and dad right next door. And others. Aren't there others? Just the two of you now? Okay, cool. That's great. Nick Seymour. Where's Nick? Annenberg. And Becca Lambright, I know, is here. And Becca's people are back there. Hi, Becca's people came from Cleveland. Before we get to positive sentimentality, and we have this here. Usually we put boxes all around the room, but we didn't today. So you brought your own. It's okay to be sentimental. It really is okay to be sentimental. This is a moment for it. Before we get to all positive sentimentality, I want to consider something slightly more somber about this, because to do what you've done has been 18 years of education, and of course more than that of life, and possibly more than 18 of education if you started early. And 18 years is a long time. And along the way, there are people in your lives, adults and others, who have supported you. Great teachers along the way, grandparents who aren't here, other family members, rabbis and imams and ministers and priests who've just been there at the right moment. And there are some people who couldn't make the long trip from New Mexico and so forth. And then there are some people who are gone. 18 years is a long time. So I thought it might be good to start just to remember one or two people who are part of the making you who you are, who couldn't be here today. So this would be a good moment to think about them, I think. Thank you so much. And thank you to them. Amazing how much work it takes. I'm sorry to put it this way to these seniors who think of themselves as sui generis. You know, they just made themselves. But how many parents, grandparents, aunts, siblings feel you had something to do with this? Okay. Let us put our hands together for all of those people. So I want to say a few things about how this is going to work, and then a few things about why we're doing this whole project. So seniors will be called by me one at a time, and you'll come up and you'll sit here, or if you want to stand, that's fine. It's going to be brief, because one of us will be doing a very, very brief introduction. So brief, in fact, that partly because there's a lot of seniors to celebrate, and we want to get out of here to go to the real graduation at some point. Although this is the real graduation. Sit here, and you'll hear a very, very laudatory and sentimental introduction, brief one, and then you've got the floor. Say something. Many of you have written what you want to say. Many of you, at least you've thought about what you want to say. Because the introductions are so brief, each of us who've done the introductions, I think each of us, or maybe most of us, have written a letter to you that we will give to you, that you can take with you. In the living room is a big screen, so if you feel like this room is getting a little old for you, you can go back there. It's very good. We have the audio throughout the house. So if you go all the way back, even in the kitchen, you're getting the audio. So if you need a break, that's totally fine. There are bathrooms. There's a bathroom behind the kitchen. There's two bathrooms on the second floor, and there's even one on the third floor if all the others are being used. After the event, the ceremony, we have a really big, nice spread, which includes champagne. It's not too early for champagne. It won't be too early then, anyway. Champagne and really fun, yummy food. So I know all of you do this graduation weekend thing of making fancy reservations for late lunch. Hope it's late. Do that, but you'll probably get enough for lunch here. So cancel those reservations. And please stay. This is never really necessary to say at these capstone events. We've done 23 of them. You'll see why. You will fall in love with all of the kids, and you'll want to hear them celebrated. There's a couple of families that are coming in from Annenberg after the Annenberg event, and so we're going to have to figure out how to make room for them. But please stay the whole time if you possibly can, because I think you will feel rewarded. And you'll get a sense of your sons' or daughters' colleagues and what they've done. There's an extra exit here, so if you feel like you need to rush out and don't want to go all the way, opening that won't help with the heat because it'll just bring the hot air. And sorry, Darby, but you could try it, but I don't think it'll work. If you are doing Instagramming any of this, we hope you will, or tweeting, please tag us at Kelly Writer's House so that we can pick up everything that you're doing. We really love to have those photos. But you don't have to, because we are making, thanks to Zach Carduner, everybody there, Zach. We are making a video recording with 3 different camera angles, and it's going to be superb. It's going to be edited, probably by one of the seniors. And we will make it available to you. We will make sure we send it to you, so you'll get a link. And we will also, yes, Zach, we will segment. Every senior will have a video segment, and that will have its unique URL, and you can send it to family and friends, so they don't have to go through all the hours of the program. So, all the Autumn Wind fans in Philadelphia, and there are many of them at this point, will get to have the autumn section. So, all right. Why are we doing this? We probably too much love to celebrate this event as a distinction from the other events you're about to go through. Now, that's a kind of a mean-spirited thing to say, because the events you're going to are going to be ceremonial. They play pomp and circumstance. It's a big deal. It's fun. It's lovely. It's very moving in its formal kind of way. But it isn't the case that Darby, who's totally, just to take an example, who's a totally fabulous person and who's achieved so much here at Penn, is not going to get 3 to 5 minutes at a graduation of 2,500 people to say what she feels. Here she will. And so this is why we're doing this. And the whole point is to prove to the university and to the people, families who've supported these people through their education, and people who've footed the bills to go, which is not the easiest thing in the world, right? To prove to everybody that life at a great big university need not be impersonal, that creativity cannot be impersonal, right? That the making of creative, innovative things cannot be impersonal, must not be impersonal. So the personality of what we're doing aligns well with what the Writers' House was set up to do 23 years ago, which is to create not just a metaphor of a family, like the Schwartzes send Emily from Chicago, what's going to happen to her? I'm worried, it's a big city, I don't know it. What's going to happen to Emily? Is she going to be okay? Is she going to get good advice? And then they find out that she's come to a home, a house, that is operating on the model of the family. So it's not just a metaphor. We actually, the way we feel, and all of us who introduce these kids, you're going to get that sense, even if it's only a minute-long introduction, you're going to feel that we feel that they are part of our family, which is why we say, yeah, I'm for that. Don't stop him from... You gotta let Dad applaud. Here. Pass that back. Because no big university can possibly celebrate the genius, and I mean genius, right? Well, I'm not talking straight A genius. I'm talking about the genius of the particular ways in which these people navigated learning in the 21st century, which is just not an easy thing to do. It's not what we went through for the older people in the room. It isn't. It's really different. So let us together redefine what intellectual, aesthetic, personal, emotional, and social, and maybe even sometimes political family means. Let's broaden that definition, and let's tell the university that it's not just about the grade getting in a particular class and learning a skill set, which is important, but I don't think it's half as important as what you're about to find out these people have learned. Finally, just to put a point on that, one dad, I won't say who, although the family will know and they'll start laughing and then you'll know who they are. One dad posted to Instagram a picture of his daughter as a child. She was waiting for something in a large empty space. I'm going to say maybe a dance class, or I don't know what it was. Waiting for something on a really hot day. I would say she was about 6 or 7 years old. And she was sweating, and she had on her face a kind of smile grimace, which is sort of a famous facial expression of this person. And the caption that Dad posted said, "Hot and bothered, and graduating college this week." And all I want to say in response to that is, up with bothered. The hot part I'm sorry about. Let's be bothered, right? I think everybody's experienced what that means. That's just dad love there, Lilli Leight. It's just dad love, hot and bothered. Who's been hot and bothered? We all have. This has been quite a journey, and you're about to hear about it. So I would like to call up, to be honored first, Fiona Jensen-Hitch, to sit here, and Jamie Lee Josselyn will introduce her. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Hello. I have for you 2 letters. One is from me to you, written right now. And the other is from you to you, written the day before your first day of freshman year. You, Fiona, have taught me what is possible at Penn, and maybe what's not quite possible, too. But really, I so admire the work you've done here in writing, in anthropology, in dance, in friendship, in dog care. And I admire the way that your work, both inside and outside the classroom, intersects with and really depends upon itself. Speaking of intersection, your honors thesis, which won our thesis prize, Mill Creek Remap.
Wait, it won the thesis prize?
Just like we practiced. It's called Mill Creek Remap. I'm sure you've all purchased your copies. It combined research, topography, self-reflection, metaphor, sound, a sense of place, and innovation. Thank you for hanging out with Primo and me. Primo's my dog. Thank you for the chocolate. I've already eaten it. Thank you for the plant. Thank you for introducing me to Masu. That's her dog. And thank you for everything else.
So hi, everyone. Oh, yes. So I felt like I haven't been the most directly involved in the Writers' House, and initially I felt a little bit funny about coming up here and speaking, but I realized that the Writers' House has been very important to me throughout all 4 years here, and I would be remiss not to say anything about it. The Writers' House was how I found out that Penn even existed, following my senior year of high school. I had no idea what the school was. In New Mexico, it's not really a well-known name. By way of my high school English teacher came my fateful introduction to Jamie Lee, without whom I probably would not have attended this school. I came to Penn not knowing anybody else besides Jamie Lee, and the Writers' House was one of the first places on campus I stepped foot after moving into my dorm. It was a place that first felt comfortable to me, the most at home to me, coming from a small performing arts high school. The rest of Penn felt very big and unfamiliar and overwhelming, and I wasn't quite sure where I fit in or where to begin. Over the past few years, I've tried to stay involved in Writers' House events, even while moving towards a dance group that took up most of my time. Poetry readings, class readings, KWH Thanksgiving, creating an edible book, participating in the chili contest, shout out to Miri, hearing about the inner workings of KWH from my roommates, Annie and Miri, eating all of the free food and tea and drinking tea that I could imagine. The Writers' House became a space that I could float through, stay when I needed, and leave. 4 years later, here I am with a creative writing major, which I never thought would happen. I remember emailing Jamie Lee the fall of junior year, asking how crazy it would be to add on the creative writing major. mid-level crazy is what she told me, which seemed to be the appropriate, reasonable JLJ response. I want to thank the staff of KWH for making this place possible and keeping it running, the creative writing department for the wonderful classes, advising and instruction, and especially Jamie Lee for being here all of these years, meeting with me, and bringing Primo for much-needed pets. Thank you.
That's Fiona. Congratulations, Fiona. Charlie Sosnick, come on up and sit in the chair. We talk a lot about how we've known the graduating seniors for a long time. I have known Charlie since I think he was in 7th grade. How's that possible? He showed up at an event in New York when I was moderating a panel of people in the field of comedy. I know nothing. I mean, I'm funny sometimes, but I know nothing about that field. Charlie was just this pistol in the audience with Dad. He wants to be funny. That was funny. He's really, 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 really funny. Make note of the name, Charlie Sosnick. He's going to New York. I'm sorry to his parents. I apologize for having anything to do with this. He's going to New York. He's going to try his hand at being funny. Every comedy club that will let him in the door, he will be there. He will be funny. If you're in New York, Google Charlie Sosnick and go. He worked closely with Kenny Goldsmith. That is the craziest kind of influence. The neo-Dada, insane neo-Dada clown on the faculty informed his comedy. I can't wait to see what that results. He did an honors thesis. That's a book, The Eschatology Business. This is what you learn at the Ivy League. I present to you a person of great comic and also, in a way, tragic range. That didn't come off very well. He was a member of the Writers House Fellow Seminar, and he took the class because there was a comedian he was very interested in learning about, and it turned out that Nate Mackey stole the show for him, and Nate is not comic. And Charlie just did amazing things with Nate Mackey's poetry. I present to you a person of great comic range and tragic range, and also a really, really, really nice person. Not all comedians are nice. Charlie Sosnick.
Hi, everybody.
Be funny, Charlie.
I'm doing my best. So, like Al said, I first met him very early on in life. And like any college thing, before you're in college, my parents were sort of like, this guy is important. You should maybe try to impress him. And so I meet him, and I shake his hand, and he's asking me about what I do. And I say, I like writing jokes. And I'm like, oh, I've blown it. That's it. Then he says, cool, that's impressive, that's interesting. And I said, okay, well, that was very easy. And then I went to another Kelly Writers House event, and then I met Kenny Goldsmith, and he was wearing an orange suit, and he looked like a traffic cone, and he was literally reading traffic reports for 30 minutes. And I said, wow, Penn is a joke. Seriously, I was like, wow, people here are so cool and so chill and so artsy. There's so much cool stuff going on. And then I got here, and I heard for the first time someone describe a consulting internship as dope. And I realized not everyone here was going to be like these people I just met. But that's what's really cool about this place, is that you have the building which you're in right now that's dedicated to being weird right next to a fortress devoted to advanced spreadsheet design, which is cool. Al was my freshman year advisor, and he literally would not let me take any classes just for the purpose of filling requirements. And as a result, I took 3 semesters of Yiddish, and by the 4th semester, it was getting hard, so I stopped. And for my parents' sake, do not calculate how much that cost. But the influence this place has had on me is huge. When I visited here for the first time, I was like, wow, am I really going to start to look like all these hipsters once I get here? And I promised myself that I wouldn't, because in high school, I dressed like this. I wore khakis and plaid shirts and things like that. But then within 2 years, I got the nose ring. I still didn't get the thin little black tattoos all of you have. Maybe I'll get those next. But while I was here, I did meet the best teachers of my life and the best of friends, and I learned so much. So thank you to the Writers' House.
Charlie Sosnick. He'll be at the Comedy Club starting Friday. Torinn, Fennelly, where's Torinn? And Jessica will be introducing Torinn.
Oh, all right. I'm not going to change what I'm going to say. Torinn has been the best kind of editor for students writing about film and TV. She was supportive and encouraging and kind. Writing got better under her care. The moviegoer, I can say, has never had a better steward. Torinn's own writing about pop culture manages what I would call an extraordinary blend of analysis and personal revelation. I was especially moved in her thesis by her honesty about herself and impressed with her ability to frame her experiences within larger cultural narratives about gender, class, family, friendship, and so much more. It was an extraordinary document. It's funny when it needs to be, and heart-wrenching, and very brave. I keep circling back to one important idea in it, the idea that people are obligated to one another. These obligations help teach us how to treat one another. Thank you for that simple yet really profound idea. We are obligated to each other. I'm honored to be obligated to you. You're amazing.
Oh my God, this sucks. Thank you, Jessica. That was beyond nice. It's impossible for me to think about my time at Penn without thinking about the Kelly Writers' House. I'm sure many of my peers here today feel the same way. But the Kelly Writers' House has been more than a hub for my interests. It's the reason I attend this school. When I was 17, Jamie Lee Josselyn came to my high school to speak about Penn's creative writing program. I had never considered attending Penn until I learned about the school's writing program and the Kelly Writers' House. When I made the decision to transfer out of Temple University for my sophomore year of college, the programming and classes offered at the Writers' House were the primary reasons I chose to go to Penn. I met my best friend, Subi Im, at the Kelly Writers' House. We were both... This is terrible. She's not even here, and I'm crying. She's probably, like, drinking or something. We were both staff members on Penn's film criticism publication, The Moviegoer, the publication that I am somehow graduating as the editor-in-chief of. I didn't think Subi liked me when we first met. I tried speaking to her in the road and elevator after a moviegoer social, and she remained silent, staring straight ahead the entire time. It wasn't until a few months later, when she saw me across the room at a St. Paddy's Day party and shrieked my name, that I realized she didn't think I was a total freak. After that, it took only one dinner and one CVS lotion run for her to become one of the best friends I've ever had. It's because of my relationship with Subi that I met my friend and current roommate, Kelsey Stewart. And it's because of my relationship with Subi that I developed a friendship with Lacey Wright. Lacey, Subi, and I bonded about being some of the only girls on the moviegoer at the time. I'm happy to say that as I leave Penn, the moviegoer staff is entirely comprised of girls. It was through Lacey that I learned about the Creative Arts Agency, where I will begin my postgraduate career just 28 days from today. All of this connecting of dots might put you in mind of one of those convoluted investigation boards with color-coded pins and strands of strings that detectives use in movies. That's fair enough, but I really don't know where I would be today had I not walked through the front door of the writer's house. When I think of the Kelly Writer's House, I don't just think of what I've learned about writing or how grateful I am to have worked with giants like Anthony de Curtis and Carmen Maria Machado. I also think about nights climbing on the roof of Hamco and dancing to Kendrick Lamar and playing Jenga and running down Spruce Street in the middle of the night. I think about trips to New York and Saturday afternoons and lots of laughter. I think about laying in a New Orleans bed during my phone interview with CAA the day after Mardi Gras. And I think about not only how much I'll miss all of that, but how grateful I am to have experienced it in the first place. Thank you.
Torinn Fennelly. Jessica, can we fish out? Oh, there's one in the back. Good. Okay. Torinn, congratulations. That was beautiful. Navya Dasari is next, and Jamie Lee Josselyn will introduce her.
Torinn's right. This sucks. How can you all do this to us? So, a letter from me to you, and a letter from you to you. Let me know what you said to yourself. Navya, you have taught me that writing doesn't have to be separate from things like public health and policy and law. In fact, maybe it shouldn't be. You believe that writing is crucial in both action and reflection. I've always had the sense that you're a people person, but not because you're like the chattiest person in the world, but because of how deeply and fiercely you care about those closest to you. Your mentor and teacher, Lainey Brown, and I had a little chat about you, and here's what she said. Poetry reminds Navya that the most powerful experiences of connectivity and the most impactful positive actions begin with the decision space of mind available to those willing to delve, to research, to persist in the process, and to devote time also to the contemplative arts. I have no doubt that you will continue to do this work beyond pen, and I can't wait to see it.
Thank you. All right. So, when I first walked into the writer's house, I was actually super intimidated. But that only lasted about a minute before Amanda Silberling and Peter LaBerge pulled me over and welcomed me and eventually became some of the most important people to me in my first few years at Penn. It's been like that throughout my time at Penn. Creative writing is not my major, it's not my career, and it's not my biggest extracurricular involvement. So at times I felt like I can't call myself a writer. I can't be here talking to you today. But writing is deeply important to me, and the people here have always made me feel like that's all that matters. And they've taken care of me. So I remember freshman year, I had a math exam at like 9 a.m. and I woke up at 6 and I was freaking out, and I decided to text Jamie Lee, and instead of like, I'm not good at math. Which was crazy. But what's crazier is that Jamie Lee responded immediately. She was like, I'm at the gym, just come here and we'll talk. And then she comforted me while I cried, while the gym security guard was like sort of offering me a towel because there were no tissues. And just stayed with me until I felt better and I knew that I could do it and I knew I could get through the day. And Jamie Lee has always been there for me whenever I needed her, and I'm so grateful. I'm also grateful for incredible professors and friends that I found in Lainey Brown and Carmen Machado. Lainey has been basically a spiritual and creative and mentor to me. She's nurtured my growth as a poet and as a person in the world. She's helped me find real confidence in my work, helped me navigate reconciling my passions for public health and science policy and my love for writing and poetry, and has taught me that those things don't have to be separate at all. Carmen was always there with tea and warmth when I was having a difficult time. She was my rock as a faculty member during probably the hardest time of my life. And she's inspired me so much as a writer. I'm so grateful for... Oh, sorry, the last person that I want to thank is Miri for letting me stalk her while she's at work. Sometimes disappear from meetings with Lady, who's a supervisor for my independent study. And then I come back 10 minutes later and she's like, "You ran into Miri, didn't you?" But I'm so grateful for everyone that I've met through the Writers' House and through creative writing at Penn. And thank you so much for the past 4 years.
Navya Dasari, everybody. Next up is Caroline Harris. Caroline, I've written you a letter. It says a lot more than I'm able to say in the next few seconds. Recently, I rewatched the presentation that you made back on, I think it was February 7th, that was your presentation based on the awarding of the HELED travel grant. And rewatching it, I was here in the room for the presentation, but I was just worried about logistics and so forth. But the other night when I rewatched it, it brought tears to my eyes. And first of all, the idea that you were now a senior and that this was essentially your sort of culminating research project, how did that happen? How did it happen so fast? And then the intelligence and the poise and the discernment and the, did I say poise? Of your presentation. Caroline got this grant, and this is wacky. She got a grant. We paid for her to do this. She went to research the haiku poet Basho in Japan. She hiked over 100 miles following the Kumano Kodo pilgrimage, beginning in Osaka and ending up in Ise. And part of her research, she stayed in Buddhist monasteries and learned about Zen Buddhism. Her project investigated the intersections of poets and pilgrims. And if there is not a way in which poetry can intersect with our life at this point in the 21st century, where pilgrimage, aka exodus, exile, refugee status, is not the main narrative of existence on the planet, what else is? I was really moved by how poetry and pilgrimage depend on each other. And here was this young person teaching me about that. It has all the qualities of you, that presentation. Smart, kind-hearted, intrepid. I mean, she's so like sweet and modest and ridiculously intrepid, rigorous, also informal and very friendly, and winning. That's not a word used much these days, but I mean that in a way that, you know, you just hang out with her and everything is so positive and fun-loving and smart. We are going to miss you, Caroline. You took all of my courses, and you were always there, and you contributed in powerful ways, and you are a superstar. And so congratulations on your graduation.
Thank you so much, Al, for that wonderful introduction. The first time I stepped into the writer's house, it was to shadow a class called Modern and Contemporary American Poetry. I was a shy senior from a California suburb. Penn seemed overwhelming. It was my first time in Philadelphia, in any big East Coast city, really, and I was not a fan. Philadelphia seemed loud and chaotic, towering buildings, bright lights, and life spinning into overdrive. My dad graduated from Penn in 1978. He served as my tour guide, marching me down the streets of West Philadelphia while declaring, "We're not in Palo Alto anymore." I was ambivalent about Penn, but enthusiastic about the writer's house. My enthusiasm intensified as Al Filreis led a collaborative close reading of Emily Dickinson's I Dwell in Possibility. I expected to hide in the back of the arts cafe. Instead, Al cold called me twice. He assigned me the epithet Caroline from California, then asked my opinions on the poem. I left the writer's house convinced Penn was the place for me. Thanks to Al, I knew my Penn experience would brim with classes that would challenge my way of thinking and professors that would push the bounds of my writing. I love this cottage tucked away on Penn's campus and the community that it represents. Looking back on my Penn experience, it all leads back to the writer's house, my oasis. This is the space that brought me my most inspiring classes, from Writers' House Fellows to writing across borders. The Writers' House supported me as I experimented across literary genres and grew as a writer. To Al, thank you for your mentorship these past 4 years and for being the best advisor I could have asked for. You taught me about the power of poetry to create community, hold space, and express the otherwise inexpressible. Your teaching will continue to inspire me for years to come as I dwell on possibility. To RJ and Mingo, thank you for supporting my writing. You gave me hope for the future by proving that English majors get jobs, and those jobs can be creatively fulfilling. I will miss our weekly lunches. To my wonderful parents, thank you for giving me the gift of a Penn education. My brother Kevin, who is my icon and inspiration, and who paid me to say that. You encouraged my greatest adventures, from going on a pilgrimage across Japan to circumnavigating Ireland via sea voyage. Virginia, you're the best big sister. I don't know where I'd be without our daily phone calls. The first sentence of my college essay was Silicon Valley is a lonely place to be a poet. I learned from the writer's house that a poet need not be lonely. Thank you.
Caroline Harris, everybody. A poet need not be lonely. I love that. James Fisher is next. And Alli Katz, our program coordinator, is going to introduce James.
Hello, James. I also have 2 letters for you. One from me and one from you. It's a letter James wrote as a freshman, a very special tradition that Jamie Lee has with her freshman advisees. I actually cannot believe that I am saying goodbye to you because I feel like I've known you for an exceptionally long time. James came in when he was a senior in high school and basically got hired on the spot and reminded me his freshman year that he had a job here. I was like, absolutely. Of course. And I've always been so impressed by James. He was already an amazing writer and thinker and established, and he was getting stuff published all over the place. And I was like, okay, well, I can't get anything published anywhere, but James is awesome. And then as I got to know him, I got even more impressed. James, I'm so impressed by your self-knowledge, your self-advocacy, and your ability to set a goal and see it through. And you do so amazingly at that. I've also been impressed by your French and your chatting with various staff members in French, and you're practicing. And last summer you started teaching, and what has really, really blown me away is that you found yourself the first step towards a career that is meaningful, that you care about, and that you love. And that there is nothing in the world that beats that. And I appreciate every moment I've gotten to spend with you, every moment that you come looking for snacks now that you work off site. And you're a bright spot in my day. And I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to do anything that we've done to help you along your way. So thank you, James. Thank you, and I hope to see you more as years go by.
Hello, can y'all hear me? Yes, okay. So I had a plan written out that I wrote like 5 minutes ago. So I'm gonna get to that, but I just looked at my like letter that I got, and I'm like, wow, just the front of it is very freshman. So I'm gonna read that later. But yeah, so I just wanted to talk about my time at the Writers' House, just give some highlights, because even though like for a semester and then this year I wasn't actively in the Writers' House, the Writers' House did like create a positive impact for me, especially during my like first two years at Penn, even my beginning of my third year. So I came into the Writers' House, like I said, meeting Alli before, like Alli said, meeting her before Penn started. And I also was one of Jamie Lee's advisees. And she was just so helpful. Like, I was coming from a low-income community, coming from a high school that really didn't prepare me. And Jamie Lee was just so compassionate, understanding. Like, she helped me plan everything to a T. And she was just so calm about it. Like, I would tell her, like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to do well on this assignment and this test and this class. And you're like, okay, well, let's plan it out. So that was really impactful. And I just love the fact that you were constantly an advocate for me during my time at Penn. And we just had so many deep conversations about life and just about struggle and adversity. And you just always were a light of like just sunshine for me. So I really thank you. So just briefly, I'm going to show some highlights because I only have, 2 minutes now. So I'm just going to show some highlights that really encapsulate my time at the Writers' House. So the first one was, so basically before I start that, I work now offsite. Well, I just finished working offsite at the Kelly Writers' House this year, my senior year. And then senior spring, I took a break from the Kelly Writers' House. But before then, it was like a lot of other stuff. So I'm going to kind of list those times. So I loved making fruit and cheese plates for receptions. And I loved having to switch the cheese and the grapes when, it wasn't the right pairing. I really appreciated that. I remember cutting my finger while trying to cut some onions during like a really special program. And I remember, Alli having to take care of me and bandage me up. That was good too. I love the marathon readings. I love how long it took to prepare. I love the food. The food was always very interesting. I think the one that I remember was like squid. We had squid one time. Yeah, it was really new for me. I'm almost done. So I remember the chili cook-offs. I think I did 2 of those, or was around 2 of those. I remember the speakeasies where I performed my poetry and just getting to know someone named Puppet Master. And yeah, she was an interesting character. And then ever since then, I kept seeing her. So I was like, okay, so she's a part of the community. I remember my podcast for the Kiki. I remember that. And I remember Zach just editing everything and, being patient with me with that because I had like a lot of like content. I remember ModPo. I remember taking ModPo with Al and Lilli. And that was really like interesting because it encouraged me to like pursue poetry and like really analyze it and find new ways to sort of think about poetry. So that was really good. I remember, what does this say? Oh, meeting. Oh, I remember meeting all of the quirky seniors that I had to work with. I'm not gonna lie, at first it was like, oh, okay, because I'm from New York, I'm from the Bronx, and I, have a certain way about me, and I would just interact with all these like interesting people that I ended up really sharing deep, intimate moments with. So I appreciate that as well. I remember working with Right on Fridays and making Rice Krispie treats and, make sure the kids had stuff to eat. And then I also remember taking their snacks after when they ate. So that was good. I also remember the staff trainings that I had to go through repetitively, even though I was trained like 2 times already. But thank you again for that. And then I have two more. Okay, I remember winning the Goldstein Prize for one of the summers, which basically gave me funding to like pursue a project that I wanted to do that was like writing, tutoring related. So I really appreciate that. And then the last one, Trader Joe's. Going to Trader Joe's. I think that was good as well, because I would go with people and take a cab or the train and like go there, and then sometimes they wouldn't have what we asked for, so I had to like come back and go to Fresh Grocer. So, I think just these are only a few of the highlights that I experienced here. And I just really want to thank the Writers House community for just being so opening, being so caring, and just accepting me with all that I had and all the baggage that I had. I really think that the Kelly Writers House was a safe haven for me here. And it was a place that I can just come to and just, I don't know, weird out and not think about the scariness of Penn. So I really appreciate it, and I thank you so much.
James Fisher, everybody. So James is decorated himself to express himself for graduation, and one of the, what do we call it, ropes? No. Cords is a green one, and Jessica's, come on in the room. We have for the first time, yes, and James is twirling it around, we have for the first time made available to seniors who are marching tonight and tomorrow to choose to identify themselves as Writers House people and wear a green cord. So we hope, say, I am a Writers House person. Thank you, James. Annie Fang is next. Annie, please do not go. Please do not graduate. We can still give you an incomplete. Annie Fang, and introducing Annie will be Zach Carduner.
Hello, everybody. Before we started, I just wanted to throw out some numbers in case you guys were curious, because I know you guys are hot. It's 86 degrees in here. 59 degrees humidity, so you guys are doing great. Annie Fang, wow. Talented dancer and gifted singer, but most importantly to me, Wexler Studio assistant extraordinaire. Annie joined the ranks of the Writers House staff back in 2016 as one of our Kerf interns. And in retrospect, it's kind of amazing that she did, since Annie has been involved in so much here at Penn, including basically every performing arts group here that I've ever heard of, and several more that I haven't. And I actually hadn't even realized until very recently, it was actually during a roast, just how involved you had been, which isn't so much an indication of how unobservant I am, I hope, but rather an indication of how good you are at juggling your commitments and managing your time. And one method I think that you've developed to help cope with that kind of workload, the workload that would overwhelm most mere mortals, is your unique sense of humor. And it's really difficult to encapsulate it in words. So I reached into my email archive to try and find an example. And yeah, I'm sorry. But it's a loving roast. But the best result that I could come up with is actually one of my own emails from September of 2016. And I'm curious to see if you know the context of this. But I said, knowing Annie, this is definitely egg-themed. I'll leave you all to ponder those words as I welcome Annie Fang up here.
Thanks, Zach, for roast part 2. But I will take it with grace. Okay. It's hard to sum up 4 years' worth of sentiment in one brief yet coherent speech, which is to say, I'm going to do my best. The only thing I really have to say is thank you, actually. Thank you to the entire Writers House family for always having space for me, even when I didn't know I needed it. And thank you especially to Zach for being the best and only boss I've ever had. Letting me work here the summer after my freshman year, and even after all that, letting me still come back. Thank you to everyone, really, my mom and my dad, who are here. All of my friends, okay, yeah. So many of my best friends who I actually met right here. Oh, geez. The teachers I actually took the time to get to know, and even the ones that I didn't, because there were a lot of them, and I still learned a lot, I think. I'm just, so grateful to be here right now at the end of it all. I'm thankful for all the time that was mine to spend in late night rehearsals, many of which were with Miri. Shout out to Miri. On long walks, eating good meals that were often made by Perren. The bread pudding especially. And I'm even grateful for all the stress and the hard times and the hurting, because there was a lot of that too, because college is really difficult, which a lot of people say. But they made me who I am now, and that's the version of me who's going to go out into the world and, I don't know, do this thing, I suppose. Honestly, I had really no clue how I'd feel right now, despite simulating it in my room last night while I was writing this, trying to decide whether or not I would cry, and I think I've adjusted accordingly for that. Because a part of me is actually so thrilled to be graduating, and another part is really, truly terrified. But what's nice that I've realized is that the things that I'm really so thankful for aren't actually disappearing. They're not really going anywhere. Sure, some of them will change a little, but I'll still have my family and I'll still have my friends. And honestly, yeah, I'll still have the Writers House and everyone in it. And I can and will definitely still make a ton of mistakes. I'll still take long walks, all that good stuff. But I only know that that's true because I had the time to figure it all out while I was here, especially while I was here. So thank you so much.
Annie Fang, everybody. Thank you, Annie. Don't graduate, don't go. Emily Schwartz, you're next. Yeah. Emily, I seem to have forgotten the lovely long letter I wrote to you. It's at home. I think I'm going to put it in the U.S. mail with a postage stamp on it. Imagine that. It says a lot, and one of the things it says, I'm going to say now. I went through all of our emails over the last 4 years. There were a lot of them. In the process of seeing all the emails, I remember that recently I told you, probably shouldn't have, I told you that I had nominated you for Phi Beta Kappa. And then it turns out, and that wasn't the deciding factor, what the deciding factor was your extraordinary academic work. She had been elected and inducted into Phi Beta Kappa. There's a lot of scams out there, academic honors scams. Do not go for them. Do not fall for them, right? You for $49 you can join your B- average entitles you to. Phi Beta Kappa is the one. It is the one true academic honor, and congratulations on that. And then there was lots of correspondence about your terrific creative writing honors thesis. Creative writing honors thesis. And all that came back, all the classes that we did together, especially our course on the Holocaust. And I found, finally, I just want to mention, I found a note that you wrote to me 2 days after my father died suddenly. It was in the middle of our class together. And he was old, but it was sudden. And what you wrote was just the great testament to your, not just your humanity and sweetness, but how much you learned from the Holocaust class. And I'm not going to quote the whole thing, but you quoted John Ashbery from our poetry class, the line that their merely being there means something. It's a reference to trees, except I think parents are like trees in that sense. And finally, in reference to my former teacher, the late Terence Dupre, you wrote, "I'm sure you have thought about him plenty over the past week, but in case you haven't, I want to remind you of 5 words of his that have stuck with me since our course. All things human take time." You wrote that you will miss me in class that day, because I was with my mom going to Florida, but that you will see me on Thursday. And you did, so thank you for that. Emily Schwartz.
Thanks, Alli. I don't remember sending that email, but I'm very glad that I did. I want to start by saying congratulations to all the graduates here. I know how hard we've all worked to get here, and so I want to say congrats, and I'm proud of all of us. I also want to say congratulations to all the family and friends here and all the Writers House faculty here, because I've seen firsthand how hard you have all worked to get us here, and I know it was not easy. I think there's no better evidence of the saying, "It takes a village," than everyone in this room and in this building. So in that spirit, I wanted to say congratulations to everyone. I would guess it's no secret to anyone in this room today that graduation weekend is an emotional one. These past few weeks, I've experienced every emotion on the scale, from excited, nervous, sad, proud, sentimental, existential, the list goes on. But the feeling that keeps bubbling to the surface for me above all the rest is an overwhelming sense of gratitude for how my 4 years at Penn here turned out. And it goes without saying that a huge source of that gratitude is from my time here at the Writers House. So at a ceremony celebrating all of our achievements as graduates, it only feels appropriate to use the few minutes I've been given to celebrate the place that made so much happen for us. And I hope that my effort to explain why I feel so grateful is the best celebration I can give. To put it simply, there is no other place here on the campus of the University of Pennsylvania, or possibly any university in the country, like the Kelly Writers House. I know that may sound like an exaggeration, but my unique and specific combination of memories here make me feel in my gut that that is true. There is no other place where a freshman in her first semester could land in a class about the incomprehensibility of the Holocaust and be in completely over her head, but still be treated like an equal by all of the older, brilliant classmates and be met every single class period with kindness, compassion, and inclusivity. My experience in that class was a strange one because it totally undid me, but at the same time tethered me in a semester that for many freshmen, including myself, often feels totally out of control. There's no other place where a writer as renowned as Buzz Bissinger, one of my favorite teachers here, would sit around a table with 10 students for 6 hours a week and critique their writing, which he had previously printed out and marked up by hand. He would show us early unpublished drafts of Friday Night Lights and his Vanity Fair article on Caitlyn Jenner. He included us on a Skype call with David Remnick, the editor of The New Yorker, and despite all of his credentials, he treated us with as much humility and kindness as I found in the Holocaust classroom 1 year before. There's no other place where I would have been provided the opportunity to close out my senior year with a substantial writing project that I feel really encapsulates my writing career at Penn in the best possible way, and let me end college with something to show for it that I really, really love and I'm really proud of. And there is no other place that makes students feel as recognized and as noticed on a campus where it is too easy to feel like a small fish in a big pond, or feel as collaborative and on the same team on a campus where competition is the norm. There is no place that feels like as much of an anchor or as much of a home base. Probably the biggest part of why there is no other place like the Writers House here at Penn or anywhere else is the steadfast, selfless team of people who made all those memories possible for me and all the other students who have passed by the green sign and through the front door during our time here. So expressing my gratitude would not be complete without acknowledging two of them now. Al, you have been a guiding force and a friendly face. You challenged my thinking and pushed my learning in ways that I could not imagine before college. You have been a pillar and an organizing principle of my time at Penn. Thank you for helping me reach so many of my goals here. I always will carry with me the ways you propelled me to success, and I hope I can one day pay that treatment forward. Jamie Lee. You have also been an organizing principal of my time at Penn, very much in a bookend kind of way. I literally would not be here at Penn without you and the faith you placed in me and the risk you took on me as a high school student before we even knew each other. You gave me the gift of 2 very thoughtful, thought-provoking classes. You answered so many questions and provided so much advice to me throughout the years without hesitating, and I wasn't even her advisee. You said yes to taking on a very big project with me and adding a heaping load to your plate with my thesis in my last semester, and steered me to a final product that I said I'm very proud of. So thank you for doing it all, and with the warmest smile on your face. One of the very handy things about taking a lot of writing classes is you have a lot of excellent writing to turn to when you are at a loss for words yourself. So I want to close with a short poem I first encountered in Al's English 88 class. Many of you here are probably familiar with it. I've turned to it at many different points throughout college, and I feel today especially that it sums up my gratitude for the Writers' House. So this is Sid Corman's It Isn't for Want. It isn't for want of something to say, something to tell you, something you should know, but to detain you, keep you from going, feeling myself here, as long as you are, as long as you are. As long as the Writers' House is here at Penn, I'll feel that I was here at Penn, and I wish the same for endless potential writers at Penn in the future. Thank you, and congratulations to everyone again.
That was Emily Schwartz. And next up is Miri Jesuthasan. Come on up. And introducing Miri will be Alli Katz.
Hi, Miri. We're at a university, so in case anyone was wondering, we're at a university, and one of the things that makes an academic deemed like fancy or whatever is the number of times they're cited. Like, oh, my scholarship has been cited however many times. Miri has already been cited like 3 times in these speeches as a student, so I feel like that can give you a sense of just how significant and important she is to the Writers' House. There's a bit of a competition who would get to give this mini toast. I am honored. Miri is one of the funniest people I know, and she is without changing her expression at all. She managed to convince a number of underclassmen that she was a twin with another staff member who is not the same age as her at all. She got her father to lie to these students as well. She did it without changing her demeanor at all. And that's just her humor, which is much appreciated. So many of the things I say, she responds to with no affect. I don't know actually if that's a joke or not, but I'm going to take it as one. But I think it's also important to note her beautiful, amazing work here. She's been a remarkable copy editor for Jacket 2, and super helpful with receptions, often clutch for lunch programs. That's very important here. And she's been a leader at the Writers' House, not to mention an amazing member of the artistic, journalistic, and theater communities here. She's directed, 2,000 performances. That sounds right? Approx 3,000? Wow. Wow. And at some point in her senior year was like, oh yeah, they made me features editor of 34th Street. I guess I'll do it. I guess. And Kenna, who is Miri's direct supervisor, it's her birthday today, so she could not make it. But I did want to share a few words that she shared with me. Miri is such a kind, creative, curious person, and I appreciate her so much. Whether it was correcting commentary posts where J2 authors got facts about communist movements wrong, or chatting in the kitchen, she's been such a fantastic employee and friend. And I echo those, and so does everyone else here. So Miri, I hope to see more of you in the next couple months, and more of you hopefully forever, because I miss the heck out of you. And thank you for being here, and thank you for being you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Alli. I did not know you would be introducing me, so that's kind of thrown me because part of my speech was that I was going to reveal to you that I was not actually Jacob's twin, but I now realize that you already know that. So, surprise. Okay. I began my time at the writer's house, as many other staffers did, by emailing Alli Katz during my first week of freshman year. However, unlike other staffers who started working here freshman year, I did not receive a reply from Alli Katz, who I guess just did not see my email. But she did a year later and eventually offered me a job at Jacket 2, so no hard feelings. Since then, I've been working under the wonderful Kenna, who, as Alli mentioned, is not here because it's her birthday and she's celebrating, which is 100% what she deserves. 4 years later, we are here. I made it into this safe haven of Modpo and Trader Joe's leftovers. What I found here is people to share cheese with, a place to hide between rehearsals and tech week and exams. I found a kitchen table where I could sit at almost any time of day and talk to people about things like, how do I get a sourdough starter? How can I find a sublet? How will I finish this thesis? What if I don't get a job? What if we all had detachable arms and we could somehow pin them up next to our beds at the end of the day before going to sleep? Real conversation. There are many things that I am indebted to the Writer's House for, in particular, all of the Malaysian cooking spices that I have in my kitchen right now, and for providing my theater group and Tuatons with the space to put up workshops and readings, and also with like 50 chairs one time. I want to emphasize that it's pretty difficult sometimes to be here as an international student and not know little things. Like, I can't just call my parents and be like, is it Chipotle or Chipotle? So there are some specific things that I would like to thank people for. To Lilli for being an actual life coach, to whom I can turn to for anything remotely related to babysitting or cooking or gardening or subletting or living in Philadelphia or living at all in general. To Andrew for being the person I can turn to when Lilli doesn't know and when my parents don't know and when my advisors at International Student Services and Financial Aid Services don't know about which IRS forms I need to get my money, which is important because I need it. To Jessica for teaching me how to advocate for myself and teaching me that work has value and that creative projects are all worth pursuing. To Julia for being a kind presence when I once needed it most my sophomore year and for reminding me that there are many ways to be in the world. To Alli for being the best kind of friend and boss and for going along with my jokes, and this was the part where I was going to tell you that I wasn't actually a twin. To Kenna, whom I've already thanked pretty extensively, but for also being the best kind of boss and friend and for being such a solid presence during my time at Penn and teaching me how to pay attention to the little things. And of course, there are all the friends I met here, all the staffers I met here, all the professors I met here, and all the deadlines that I didn't meet here. So I would like to end with some special shout-outs. Shout out to all the staffers, especially everyone who has ever covered a shift for me. Shout out to Annie Fang for giving me a spot in the PDAUS and in my heart forever. Shout out to the free printer upstairs. Shout out to the Marie Show podcast and Zach for letting us record that. Shout out to Navya for telling me this place even existed. Shout out to the Right On kids for keeping me humble about my snack making abilities. Shout out to everyone I did a chili cook-off with, but especially Fiona because we actually won. Shout out to Frank Ocean. Okay. Shout out. Shout out to my family, especially my mama and my sisters, Janita and Yazo, who are in Singapore right now. And shout out to all the other parents and the prospective students to whom I gave tours here and who asked if I had liked my time here at Penn, and to whom I always said yes, I did. Because every time they asked that, I always thought about the Writer's House, and I always felt so lucky that I had been able to find it.
Mira Jesuthasan, there she is. Congratulations, Miri. Cole Bauer, come on up, Cole Bauer. Jamie Lee Josselyn. There's something special about to happen. Jamie Lee Josselyn, come on up. Oh, Cole's going in the other room instead of this room. That's a weird move. No, he's coming around. There he is. All right, get your little videos ready.
It's time for our duet. 2 letters for you. You, Cole, have taught me that one person, in this case one person with a guitar, can instill deep connection among people. That family can exist at the university. And I'm not talking about the fact that your sister goes here, although she does, and I'm glad she does. And that home can be cultivated in a classroom, a rehearsal space with Becca for freshman year, right? A dorm room, the Writers' House garden a couple days before freshman year started, or even, and this is the weirdest one, on a Tuesday night at Smokes, that's a bar, up on a chair, guitar unplugged, surrounded by friends, but really family. In your own words that you sang at your high school graduation, all the things we've said and done, they've all led up to now. Congrats.
Thank you so much. I'm going to sing a song for you guys today. So I picked the song for 2 reasons. The first reason is I sang it at my high school graduation, and it's an older song, but I think it applies today. It's about growing up. It's something that I thought I did when I was a senior, and now I realized it's taken on a whole new meaning as I'm graduating college, and I'm sure it will take on new meanings as I get older. And the second reason is it was the first experience I had with the Writers' House was playing this song a few days before freshman year started at the first speakeasy. And I'd like to share it with you guys today as it comes full circle. This is Small Town.
You and me, we walk upon a hill. I look down and say I won't. We both know that I will. We roll down and laugh until we cry. We've known nothing better than that inky autumn sky. Wrap the weekend up and now we're headed off to school. For what it's worth, I don't mind growing up inside this small, small town with you. You and me, our steps are synchronized as we walk down North Ridge in the heat of late July. Innocent as birds and bugs and bees, we talk about the shapes of clouds, our favorite colored leaves. We walk around till dark because there's nothing else to do. For what it's worth, I don't mind growing up inside this small, small town with you. Last night was the first December snow. The interstate is frozen, so there's nowhere we can go. Walk my comics over to your house. I like Calvin, you like Hobbes, we both like Charlie Brown. We read until we can't see because nothing else is new. For what it's worth, I don't mind growing up inside this small, small town with you.
Here's the graduation part.
Pack your bags, I think it's time to go. Take the top off of my car and roll down your windows. We can drive the streets around this town. All the things we've said and done, they've all led up to now. Take the things your mother said, 'cause all of them are true. And the path your father led, it made you into you. And for what it's worth, I don't mind growing up. And for what it's worth, I'm lucky that I grew up in this small, small town with you. Thank you, and thank you to the Writers' House for being my small town at Penn.
And now, Autumn Wynde. Autumn Wynde. Don't graduate. Oh, you're not, actually. You're staying another semester. Okay, Autumn Wynde. And to introduce Autumn Wynde will be Jessica Lowenthal.
Autumn also has the letter she wrote to herself. It's a good tradition. Among other things, Autumn is an amazing artist with sort of a tactile interest in the world. That tapestry piece right back there on the wall, right by the door, she made that. I'm in love with how it's both rugged and also delicate. It's got these little things that break when you walk by it. It has thick, durable fibers and these organic materials. It's quirky, it's a little crooked, but it's also harmonious, and kind of like Autumn herself. That was easy. I asked a lot of people to tell me how they feel about Autumn because I think of her as somebody who is really central to people's lives. So part of your letter in there is what they said to me. People praised Autumn for her kindness and generosity. They said she's loving and lovely, open, thoughtful, curious. Someone said you could look carefully and see sparkly things. Perceptive, present. Autumn is also singularly and fiercely herself. Jamie Lee said it like this: Autumn does what Autumn wants to do and doesn't seem to get swayed by the mainstream. And Al already said it, but I'm really happy that what Autumn wants to do next year is stay right here. The last couple of weeks, it's been strange not to see Autumn in the kitchen all of the time. I have this sense of her being there, sitting on the stool right by the shelf, drinking a cup of tea, and I'm going to miss that. I've already missed that. So I'm glad that we'll get to continue to hang out there, that you'll bring your perceptive, curious, harmonious, and quirky self here. So thank you.
I didn't know who was going to do that, and when you walked up, I was like, oh no, I'm going to cry. And the only reason I didn't is because you also have glitter on your arm, and I was just like, oh, see, you sparkle. That's literally the only reason.
Finds the sparkles.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm sticking around. I'm going to do another semester of grad school here, which is the other only reason I'm not going to cry is because I get to stay. Yay. I don't have a lot to say because I have too much to say. And so I think this is probably the only graduation ceremony I'm going to come to at Penn because this is the only one that really matters to me. I think Al mentioned earlier, Al and Jessica, and James gave them the opportunity to mention earlier that we this year have the graduation chords that we're not like, singling people out to get. It's very much that Jessica has sent out many emails to the entire email listserv. So many kind reminders that they are here if we want them, if we want to self-identify and select. And I think that it's a perfect parallel to the Kelly Writers House being a place that if you choose it, they will affirm and choose you. And it is the biggest blessing of my entire time here that I got to choose this place and be chosen by this place. And so thank you all. That's it.
Autumn Wind. Emily Rush, and Zach will be introducing Emily Rush.
I guess all of mine are kind of roastish, so sorry about that. All right, Emily Rush. During one of the first days that Emily was working as a Kerf intern in the summer of 2017, I remember walking into this very arts cafe pre-renovation. So there was, if you guys haven't seen it, there was like a little cabinet in this corner where we ran all the tech. It was really something else. But I noticed that while she was doing some video editing, she was listening to Bright Eyes. Now, if you don't know who Bright Eyes is, that's good. Bright Eyes is a product of the early aughts and should be left there. Literally nobody in 2017 was still listening to Bright Eyes. And that's how I knew that Emily was special. I think I even remember asking, "Are you listening to Bright Eyes?" It was the first of many conversations we would eventually have over the next couple years about music. But most of the time, it would be Emily asking the questions. You see, Emily has a knack for asking questions that are incredibly relevant to the task at hand. Like, do you like Fiona Apple? Or who would you say is the one who got away? Didn't want to think about that. All great artists, you see, all great artists ask questions. And Emily has a knack for coming up with just the right question at the right time. And I think it's this skill which most certainly helped her develop such a close working and personal relationship with the poet Bernadette Mayer last summer, and which actually led to the Brodsky Gallery show that you can see on the walls, of which I think Jessica mentioned Autumn's piece, and Emily helped to coordinate this all. So yeah, and I guess I, in the end, get to ask the final question of your undergraduate career, so here goes. Emily Rush, how does it feel to be graduating?
It feels very weird, Zach. Okay, so I have just like a series of kind of like incoherent notes. So I started working here in the summer, and it was the best because no one was around. It was pretty much just me, Alli Katz, Zach, and Nick Seymour in a back room, like all day, every day. And sometimes there was some other guy whose name I literally can't remember, but I did have a crush on him, so mark that down. So that summer, I was given a 1-hour lunch break, like every single day for no reason. Didn't need it at all. But I would like walk home to my house, which is a couple blocks away, and just sit on the roof and be like, oh my God, like this is what I want to do the rest of my life. Just like work in an air-conditioned office and like have a lunch break. Like that's the best. And I feel like I felt that way so strongly because this was my first job that wasn't like extreme manual labor in the sun. So that was cool. Some skills that the Writers' House has given me. I have written down here, shooting the shit, making conversation and chatting. So yeah, I definitely appreciated that. So this summer was very significant. Like the first summer I worked here, Katz told me that she, quote, doesn't think I'm an incompetent person. Hopefully that's still the case after the semester I just had. And okay, something else I've written down is I feel like the answer here to everything I've ever wanted to do, every idea I've ever had has kind of been yes, except for one idea. Jessica told me no, I couldn't paint the frames she had just purchased for the writer's house, bright purple. Okay, I want to thank Zach for often giving me the odious task of choosing the music, and one time for getting me an ice cream cake. Okay, so now I have some like sentimental things to say. So I've kind of just been sitting in this room thinking about like all the times I've been here and like how today doesn't really feel any different. Like I just like kind of have a headache and I'm tired and like it's just kind of like another day, and that's kind of crazy because we're graduating. And I feel like the most surreal thing that I keep thinking of is like everyone who's talking feels in some way that this place kind of belongs to them, and I just think it's like really, really cool that there's room for all of us to feel that way and like have that be genuine and real. And this place and the people have made me strive to be kinder, more thoughtful, and more genuine. So I'm very grateful, and thanks.
That was Emily Rush. Congratulations, Emily. Next up is Sabrina Qiao. Sabrina, come on up. And Jamie Lee Josselyn will be introducing Sabrina Qiao.
I wrote you that. Sabrina, you have taught me through your writing, including your thesis prize winning thesis. Yeah, right? And through our podcasts and through our conversations, that experience doesn't have to be shared to be deeply felt. You've shown me what I think of as a compliment to my own work, that in writing about our own particulars, including and especially our most uniquely difficult moments, we find a way to understand our everyday lives. And we allow others, both those who've been there and those who haven't, a glimpse that might illuminate something in the world. Next year, you'll be here in Philly, and you'll focus on your what is rather than your what if, which is what you wrote in your senior DP column. And I'm all for it. And we'll get happy hour. Yes, it's happening. Your teachers, including Paul Hendrickson, Buzz Bissinger, Waiki Wang, Sam and Max Apple, your readers, your listeners, your fellow street staffers, and I are all grateful and excited to see where your story, written and otherwise, goes from here.
Hi, guys. Thank you, Jamie Lee, for that beautiful introduction. I actually want to do my thanks first, just because I don't want to forget anyone. But, thank you for the Kelly Writers House for putting this together and for being such a wonderful mecca of creativity and learning. Thank you to my parents for supporting me and loving me and continuing to pay my tuition after I declared as a writing major. Like, that was pretty cool. Ditto to my cousins. And to all the friends that I've made along the way, many of whom I've met here. And to my professors, Paul Hendrickson, Buzz Bissinger, Waiki Wang, Max Apple, Sam Apple, Al, Jamie Lee, all of you, Dr. Block, of course, all of you have been incredible. So, graduation, exciting. I feel terrible. I don't want to leave. I really, for me, graduation is, I think, fundamentally being forced to leave this place that has felt so secure and that I've come to adore so much. And it's like you're being thrust out into the world, and it's like, oh, like taxes, like 9 to 5. Like, no, you can't eat pizza for every meal. And yes, you should sleep 8 hours and drink some more water. This is the really big kicker for me. 50-cent drinks are not a thing out there in the real world. So welcome to adulthood. And I think it's kind of ironic because senior year, everyone's like, oh, who are you? What do you want to be? Recruiters start asking you, what's your 5-year plan? Like, sir, I don't even know my 5-second plan if we keep talking like this. Like, I have no idea. That terrifies me. It terrifies me to not know, because I feel like so much of going to, college is trying to find answers. And it was really bumming me out. And I was at my internship the other day, and my boss goes, Qiao, why are you acting so weird? And I was like, Reagan, like, I don't know who I'm going to be in 10 years. And she started laughing, and she goes, well, why would you want that? That sounds awfully boring. What a thought, to find the unknown exciting and surprising, and to really lean into it, to ambiguity. I don't know what's going to happen. I think that's a really beautiful thing, though. You have to let yourself believe you're going to live a long and fulfilling life filled with so many opportunities to fail and to fall and to bash your knees and then to get up again and to pivot and to switch and to realize that all these things that maybe feel definitional aren't really. So I think I spent a lot of my senior year trying to define who I was, a writing minor, a journalism minor, a daughter, all these other labels. There was one period where I just kept calling myself just a girl in a bar. I deeply regret that. But I'm 22, I'm figuring out, as are most of you. And I hope that all of us lean into ambiguity and let life surprise you. You'll probably make some mistakes, do some things that maybe make your parents mad, but you have a lot of time to make all of that up. So to all my classmates, congratulations on graduating. I am so excited to see the people that you flail and flounder and fail into being, and to be around for all the amazing curveballs I'm sure you'll all throw us. And just on the topic of ambiguity, I actually didn't write a speech. So all of this, just figuring it out. And I think that's a wonderful thing to keep in mind. So thank you guys so much.
Sabrina Qiao, fantastic. Next up is Perren Carillo, and he's right here. And Alli Katz is going to introduce Perren.
I do appreciate the opportunity to build some dramatic tension, because if anyone deserves it, it's Perren. I do not know how we are supposed to say goodbye to you, and I mean this on like a really practical level. Perren went abroad for an entire year, and I was panicked. It was like 9 months of pure panic while he wasn't around, because there's some things that you might already know about Perren. He is a fashion icon. He is an actual genius. He speaks at least 4 languages, maybe more. So super brilliant, very artistic. I was looking over his application to the Writers' House, where he attached some really beautiful artwork. I was like, that's right. Also a remarkable visual artist, which we rarely talked about. After, and I don't know what we're going to do. Like, I actually do not know what we're going to do without him here. Because he's been such an essential part of the Writers' House. We talk so much about how we build community here and the relationships that we have. And Perren is a leader, and all of the students here look up to him, and he's shown them, like, everything from how to make a cheese tray, which he's done despite being now a very committed vegan, to how to dress, which very few can compare. So, Perren, I wish you luck. I'm not quite sure what the next step is for you, but I have a letter here for you where I say that if you decide to not pursue a life of the mind, you could easily become super famous running a restaurant or basically doing anything that you want to do, because you are remarkable, and we are going to miss the heck out of you.
I don't want to cry. You look so fantastic. So fantastic.
I didn't prepare anything either, but my co-star just said, tell them what you want. And it says power and love, and I feel that's very appropriate today because I really do love this space. When I first walked in during NSO, and it was like speakeasy, and there was like a lot of mac and cheese, and I met Alli, and I think Dylan as well, and she was like, that was the reason I hired you. I was like, thank God. I was like, thank God I had the foresight, and thank God I met Alli that day. I would just want to thank her also just for like the amazing 3 years that I worked here, and also that 1 month period while I was like in between studying abroad that she let me work here and like do things and like still letting me get paid, which is nice, which also shout out to Andrew. Thank you to Jessica for giving me a lot of opportunities, especially like a second chance with Mind of Winter after freshman me didn't respond to her email, and she was like, why didn't you do that? And then I read a short story that had nothing to do with winter, but that was okay too. Shout out to all my friends that I made here, all the other seniors. Shout out to Becca, who's been like one of my closest friends, and we met at Penn Arts, which is the main reason why I found out about the Writers' House. I just want to flex a little bit and say I did 2 honors theses, and because there was like very little recognition because my majors are small, but it was in Spanish, entirely in Spanish, and Comp Lit, and I both got an A in them. And so I am very appreciative of the support that I got at the Writers' House during my like crises, my multiple crises that lasted the entire year. And yeah, I think the fact that my Comp-Lit thesis was about The Haunting of Hill House, Shirley Jackson's novel / the adaptation on Netflix, talking about like time and haunted houses, I think is very telling, I guess, because I kind of do want to turn back time, kind of want to relive the moments that I had at this house, the moments I cried, the moments I laughed, the moments I ate a lot of food. And also, in terms of haunted homes, I think that maybe I won't leave a very significant trace on this house, but it's very much left its own haunting in me. Thank you.
Perren Carillo. Thank you. Congratulations, Perren. Lilli Leight is up next. Come on up, Lilli. Lilli Leight. Lilli, here is a letter from me to you saying some things that I won't have a chance to say, but I just want to say this. I'm going to have to get used to adjusting to life teaching my classes without you around. That is to say, I'm really going to miss you. Have you she's sitting down, so you probably can't see this, but do you mind standing up? This smile, I can't define it really. I'm going to try. You can sit down again, yes. See, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. So it says, I'm unflappable. It also says, I'm probably inscrutable, because you don't know what I'm thinking. But I'm totally in charge. See what I mean? Okay. And I'm really having a lot of fun conveying all of that. See, she's doing it. Try to teach a class with that smile constant. She is so brilliant. And somehow she pulls off this modesty. It's not false modesty, it's real modesty. Modesty. She's not saying with the smile, I'm brilliant. She's saying, you don't know what I'm thinking. And it really helps to be a teacher with someone that you can't figure out where she's going intellectually. She took all of my courses, every chance she got. She took a course, including this past semester, and you've been my advisee. And unlike a lot of my advisees, Darby's definitely an exception here, you kept saying, it's time to talk. Let's have a meeting. Let's talk. I have things I want to talk about. There was a really tough decision early on when you had joined the crew team. You were crucial to the crew team, and you agonized over how to leave it, how to quit. That's Q word. You don't say Q word. Lilli Leight doesn't quit anything. But she had to, because the early morning practices meant that her academic work was going to be compromised at some point. And so she quit. And it was really hard. And what you showed me in that moment was, I am responsible. People are depending on me. I shouldn't quit, but I must quit. And it was really, really kind of a beautiful difficulty, I think. I'm going to conclude by quoting your recent Fellows seminar. In the Writers' House Fellows seminar, your exam, the exam in the Writers' House Fellows seminar, we give customized, individualized exam questions for every student. And Lilli's asked her to think back on the Holocaust course from a few years earlier and connect it to the work of the writers that we'd studied this semester. And she wrote the following about trauma, which is about the most empathetic thing that a young person could possibly say. And it's about language and memory. And as you hear me quote it, and as I turn the mic over to Lilli, I want you to think about what it means for a young person now. I'm really talking to the parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles at this moment. For a young person to say what is at risk if language and memory fail us, for a young person to realize that and to connect it to the trauma suffered by other people, that is the key to making the world survive the crisis that we're in. And it goes like this. Trauma, this is somebody writing on an exam at top speed. Trauma inherently changes a person, which makes it difficult for him or her to recognize themselves. And that is when language and memory fail. So here's Lilli Leight, who's going to be one of those rare people who will prevent language and memory from failing because she's that brilliant. Lilli Leight.
It's really funny, Al, because I actually wrote about that exam question in what I wrote. It took me a really long time to realize how much I had learned in my 4 years at Penn. In fact, I didn't truly understand how transformative the past 4 years were until about a week ago. I've had the privilege of taking several classes at the Writers' House, 4 of which have been taught by Al and TA'd by Lilli. And I could not have asked for more thoughtful, influential, passionate, and compassionate teachers and mentors than these 2 individuals. This semester, I took Fellows for the second time, and as you now are all aware, that the final question of each final exam is personalized for each student. When I opened my exam about a week ago and got to the last question, I was at a loss of words. It was an all-encompassing question that asked me to connect a class I took with Al my freshman fall 4 years ago to the Fellows this past spring. After reading the question about 5 times and pulling up the final that I had taken for the Holocaust class my freshman year, I realized that the question wasn't really about the material that I was taught that fall. It didn't matter that I no longer had notes, materials, or books from the Holocaust class. The prompt was instead asking me to relate the concepts and ways of thinking I was taught freshman year with the class I had just completed. And I realized that those connections actually were in all of Al's classes. I had the opportunity to reflect on the work I had done in each of these classes and over the course of the past 4 years. It is only at a place like the Writers' House that an exercise like this could be carried out. It is because of people like Al and Lilli who take the time and energy to get to know each of their students. And because of what I thought was an impossible question, I was able to recognize how deeply connected all subjects, topics, and concepts really are at a fundamental level. The staff at the Writers' House actually take the time to get to know and connect with their students, and the other students in this building follow their lead. I am thankful to have had a professor and a group of people who care about and know me on such a personal level. Penn is a big place, and it's easy to get caught up in the frantic pre-professional atmosphere that seems to plague this campus. But the Writers' House remains a haven. It is because of how people connect with each other and push each other to think in new ways that a space like this can and does exist. In no other place on campus have I had the opportunity to recognize how much I have grown as a person and as a student. I've had a truly spectacular time at Penn, and I could not have wished for a better and more impactful 4 years. Throughout it all, the Writers' House has been one of the most integral parts of my experience and identity while at Penn. It has pushed me academically and intellectually and has provided me with the support when needed, be it a friendly face or some much-needed advice. I will forever be grateful for the events and programs I attended here and the conversations that I listened to and participated in. So thank you to all the Writers' House staff for facilitating such a welcoming and opening community. And thank you especially to Al for answering my frantic emails, telling me not to worry if and when I drop every class I enrolled in after the first day of that class, for pushing me and for being the most inspirational teacher I have ever had and probably will ever have. Thank you.
Thank you, Lilli. Lilli Leight, everybody. Thank you, Lilli. Next up is Adelaide Powell, and that's another person we insist not leave. You're looking around thinking, where are my parents? Hello? Oh, there they are. Okay, and Zach will be introducing Adelaide. Come on up, Adelaide. Or Addie, as some people call her.
Hey. Adelaide, or Addie. It really upset Alli when she found out that Adelaide liked to be called Addie. It's like sophomore year. Or I like to say Powellade. I'm still trying to make that happen. A lot has changed over the last 4 years at Writers' House here, and I'm very thankful, though, that one constant has been Adelaide. She's an excellent engineer in the studio and a diligent and thorough editor for Penn Sound. But the thing I admire most about Adelaide is her disposition. She's the most patient and easygoing person I've ever met. I'm not lying. And even when things are getting dicey, she has a remarkable knack for just keeping calm. Not seeming calm, but actually looking like she's reached a kind of inner peace. Whereas some people exert a lot of energy to appear nonchalant, in a way that actually puts people around them more on edge, Adelaide's calmness radiates outward, and it's infectious. It's something that I really probably hopelessly aspire to. So much so that the next time things get stressful here, or really anywhere in my life, I'm just going to ask, what would Adelaide do? It's my pleasure to introduce Adelaide Powell.
I don't know if I live up to that completely. I'm a little anxious. But thank you, Zach, for that introduction. If anything, that calmness comes from your great advice and mentorship. And I know I ask a lot of questions about how to do everything in the studio, but you've helped me learn how to code and wrap wires properly and do crazy things I never would have expected. So thank you. And thank you to the Writers' House. It's been an incredible 4 years being a work-study student here. I'm so glad I didn't get the work-study job at WXPN freshman year and got this instead, because there's no better job on campus and no better community to call home. Being here has given me the opportunity to listen to the world-class journalists and authors that come here every year and get the chance to sit next to filmmakers at dinner and rub elbows with incredible poets, and especially all the students I get to work with every day. You guys are so creative and talented, and I just aspire to be more like you. Yeah, thank you to the Writers' House for feeding me and providing me with endless amounts of coffee. I really enjoyed all the programs I've been part of, and for some reason I was always scheduled during ModPo recordings, the online poetry class, and my mom would always tune in and watch me in the live streams in the background, so shout out to her. Yeah, so I'm so blessed to have been able to call this place a home, and really thank you to Zach, Al, Jessica, and Alli for being great mentors, and for the Writers' House for having this event so that I can share this amazing place with family and friends. So thank you.
Adelaide Powell. You folks are doing really, really well, and there are 4 more seniors to celebrate, and we are on our way to a fabulous, yummy feast with champagne and there's, yeah, that too. Izzy Lopez is next. Come on up, Izzy. And Jamie Lee Josselyn will be introducing Izzy.
I wrote you this. Izzy, you have taught me that no matter what, there can always be a good meal or a good frap. And when in doubt, refer to the joy of cooking, find your local micro creamery, or just make a vodka sauce. I actually mean vodka sauce. I'm not talking about, and write about it, of course. Your work here has been unflinching at times, but what I really like about your work is it acknowledges that sometimes you got to flinch. And when a flinch is necessary, you got to reflect upon it with curiosity and compassion. You have done and are doing just what our Lord and Savior, Joan Didion, has asked. You tell yourself stories in order to live. And this summer, you'll be here doing that with me and with 20 high school kiddos, and you'll teach them that. You write because you have no other choice. Sorry. And that comes through in your work, which embraces what is not yet known and what can't be known, and also illuminates what is. Congrats.
I do pray to Joan Didion. That's completely accurate. And this isn't written in, but 1,000% a shout out to Jamie Lee for being a home away from home. We're both from Massachusetts, baby. I thought Boston, Massachusetts was the center of the universe until I came here and all anyone would talk about was New York. And I was like, shut up. Dunkin' Donuts. So thank you so much for all that. Yeah, like any great hero's journey, we'll start at the beginning, the origin. And that is just that one day, my senior year of high school, that moment, everyone's sitting down in class, one of those moments, life's moments that whip by. Most of the time, you never even notice them. And my teacher turned to me and she said, hey, do you know Penn, the school Penn? I said, yeah, sort of. She said, they recruit for creative writing. My exact response, I'll never forget, was, recruit? Like they do for sports? I said, I have really bad asthma. I can't play basketball. But I can write. But the funny thing about that is I never called myself a writer then, and I didn't until maybe junior year, maybe this year. Then in high school, at best, I called myself a good at English class or maybe a book nerd. Writing and reading was always my deepest love, but I truly didn't believe it was something I was allowed to do. I never thought I would get into Penn, let alone attend, but there was something about this connection to the writer's house, Jamie Lee's name in my inbox, that felt special. I sent her a very indignant play I wrote in high school about racism after I took the PSAT, and somehow 4 years later, here we are. As I joked at the hub party 2 weeks ago, I'm pretty certain that I did not apply for acceptance to Penn. In some ways, I couldn't care less. I applied to the Writers' House. And it has truly proven itself to be an oasis in the Wharton Desert, a place of compassion, cookies, and community. And I wish the whole world was like the Writers' House. And while it is not, I am grateful that our world has at least one Writers' House in it. I've grown here, I've read here, I've workshopped here, and most importantly, I leave here with the confidence to say, hello, my name is Izzy Lopez, and I am a writer. I'm not done. I'm just very good at drama. I'm not done. I very briefly, as the biggest cliche I can be, want to read a poem. I am not a poet. I write memoir. But I heard this poem for the first time in this room. I've probably thought about it every other day since then. It's a poem that Al so deeply loves. Al claims that this poem is about death. I really liked fighting him in Modpo. And so I claim that this poem is about life, and most specifically it's about the writer's house. And this is John Ashbery's Just Walking Around. So, what name do I have for you? Certainly there is no name in the sense that the stars have names that somehow fit them. Just walking around. An object of curiosity to some, but you are too preoccupied by the secret smudge in the back of your soul to say much and wander around. Smiling to yourself and others, it gets to be kind of lonely, but at the same time off-putting, counterproductive, as you realize once again that the longest way is the most efficient way, the one that looped among islands, and you always seemed to be traveling in a circle. And now that the end is near, the segments of the trip swing open like an orange. There is light in there, and mystery, and food. Come see it. Come not for me, but it. But if I am still there, grant that we may see each other. Now I'm done.
We do love John. Izzy Lopez, everybody. Wow. Oh, boy. Darby, Levin, you're next, and I'm introducing you. So many sessions in my office. I have a whole stash of these. Lilli keeps a big pile of them in the closet between the offices on the third floor. So many times. We cried. Mostly you, but sometimes me. And this was because Darby is someone who takes every decision seriously, and there is no limiting anything. And of course, you can't take 12 courses. You can only take 4. You can't major in 15 things. You can only major in, well, it should be 1, sometimes 2. So, could I do this? If I do this, I can't do this. And that, for Darby, is a tragedy. A tragedy that indicates the depth of her intellection and her desire to know everything and get everything figured out. It all has to be figured out. And in every course that you took with me, it was always, wait a minute, there's a hand up in the back, and it's Darby saying, wait a minute, this doesn't totally make sense. Can we make some sense of this? And that was the challenge. So there was a lot of crying, and I'm looking at her parents, maybe sometimes it seemed at the time not a good thing that it was so difficult for Darby to make those choices, and now I realize that it was the best thing you could do, and you've heard this from other people this morning, other seniors, saying that troubling a question or agonizing through a situation or making it difficult for yourself, which we think of as counterproductive, is actually very productive. So this is someone who is interested in speculative fiction and novel writing, environmental science, and really the destruction of the world, environmentally and otherwise. And that's something to worry about, and in fact, that's something to cry about. And Persian language, and rock climbing, and all kinds of other cool shit that she just does perpetually. And this semester you were in the Writers House Fellow Seminar, and it was great, and you really put it all together. It was amazing. You rocked it. You killed it. You did everything just right. You still had the Darby, like, I want to understand this, but you were okay with not understanding. I think you're ready to go. This is the one time in all these I think you're ready. You've really put it together, but you're still the person who will agonize about a decision, and shouldn't we all? Shouldn't we all? Here's to agonizing through difficult decisions. And here's down with people who say, yeah, whatever. There's no whatever in this person, Darby, Levin, Darby.
All right. This goes up. Hello. Al, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, because a lot of what you talked about I'm going to talk about in my speech now. But I think I have a bit of a reputation to defend here as the fantasy girl of the writer's house, so here it goes. Once upon a time, there was a girl who was afraid of the 3 little pigs. I don't mean the big bad wolf. I mean the story, The 3 Little Pigs. And that little girl was pretty predictably me. So my mom was naturally afraid that other kids would bully me for this irrational fear. So she did what any self-respecting English major would do. She sat me down and she taught me how a story works. I don't know if that was when I fell in love with story or when I became someone who would be a writer, but it can't have been far off, and anyhow, that's the way the story goes. There's this Neil Gaiman quote I love. He's so quotable. He was giving a speech to a librarians' convention, and he said, "Everything you can see, including the walls, was at some point imagined. Someone decided it was easier to sit on a chair than on the ground and imagine the chair. This room, and the things in it, and all the things in this building, this city, exist because over and over and over, people imagined things." Possibility, in the Emily Dickinsonian sense, is imagination. Right now, we're all dwelling in a house of possibility, a fairer one than prose. That house is the Kelly writer's house. That house is the Kelly writer's house. Its chambers and gambrels are hammered from pure imagination. Its windows, numerous, and doors, superior, are wide open for anyone who cares to enter. The only price of admission is a love of creativity and a willingness to engage with others' creativity. So this girl who came to Penn very tight-wound, very type A, driven and literal, for all I love to write about flying people and unicorns, has become open to ambiguity and fog and poetic lines that stretch horizontally like the flat New Mexico mesa, to a lessened urgency of correctness, to possibility. And that is so much because of the writer's house. 4 years later, I'm still driven. Al would still probably call me type A. And my current work in progress still includes young girls who want to be knights and unicorns that attack people. But this house of possibility has opened me in ways that are all for the better, that have made me both more introspective and more willing to put myself out there. Both less apologetic, though you might not guess it from hearing me talk, and more empathetic to other viewpoints. It has given me wide open space for growth. And as a writer, as someone who thinks about writing, and as a person. And while this physical house and this space has been responsible for that, it's truly the people that make the house. So I'd like to take the last of my time to thank some really important people. Thank you, Al, for recruiting me back when you had no idea how many times I would cry in your office trying to figure out my schedule. I told you it was prescient. And for cold calling me when I visited fellows as a junior in high school. I believe your exact words were something to the effect of, this is a tough one. You, junior. And for always being my advisor. Thank you, Jamie Lee, for my first ever tour of the writer's house and everything since then. Thank you, Lilli, for the food and the sunshine and being the best TA ever. And Jessica and Alli for helping me with the multi-year project of trying to integrate myself into the writer's house community. I've never felt quite so accepted as when you told me I was going to be roasted. Thank you. A million thanks to Melissa Jensen, my thesis advisor and first ever writing professor at Penn. She's been kind of a college mom to me, and her advice, critique, insightful conversations about writing, and steadfast belief in me have meant the world to me. And to both Melissa and Carmen Machado, another absolutely kick-ass professor of mine, for helping me improve and own and celebrate my unapologetically genre speculative fiction writing. And lastly, and most of all, to my parents, for everything, but mostly for always rendering moot Al's advice for what to do when your parents want you to be a lawyer and not a writer. To my dad, who's a very scientifically minded person, for getting so into Al's annual Parents' Weekend Brunch Roundtable Poetry Analysis that he was actually crushed, Al, when you didn't do one this year. He was very sad. And finally, to my mom, for being my first and best editor, and for telling me this is how a story goes. Thank you.
That's Darby Levin. Darby, congratulations. All right, 2 more, and then we got yummy food and champagne and hugs and all that stuff, and congratulations. Nick Seymour will be introduced by Zach. Come on up, Nick. Looking good.
Hey. Where were you? Anna Berger, that's right. That's right. Nick Seymour. Nick is somebody who needs very little introduction, but I'll do it anyway. Nick's been a fixture here at the Writers' House for 4 years, during which time he's made a positive impact on nearly every facet of my job. Whether it's studio recordings, big-time programming here in the Arts Cafe, or delicate editing projects, Nick is never not the man for the job. In fact, if I was in one of those movie situations where there's a giant bomb made out of like a tangled like mess of wires, I think I'd just hand Nick a pair of pliers, knowing that he'd be able to figure it out. If it were real life, I'd call professionals. In fact, this microphone that I'm using right now, there's a very good chance that it's been hand repaired by Nick at some point. And just to illustrate how important Nick's been here, and how it's difficult to imagine a writer's house without him. Yesterday, he actually came in and ran sound for our Alumni Day program the day before his capstone. That's ridiculous. I don't think there's anyone in my 9 years here who has done that. So without further ado, here's the irreplaceable Nick Seymour.
Be able to do this, right? Hi. As some of you may have noticed, there's been a trend of the staff people being a little bit less prepared with these speeches, but I did write something, a little bit. So the first time I found my way into the Writers' House was a little bit more than 6 years ago, visiting my sister, who for a period of time was a staffer here and a student at Penn. And at the time, I wasn't planning on going to Penn or being recruited by Jamie Lee to the Writers' House or any of that. I was just here baking cookies, and I think that really set the stage for my entire experience here in this very welcoming place. In my time, I've found that this place has considered itself a home for writers. But being here, not considering myself a writer in the traditional sense, has been incredible. This place is great because it is a community. It is a community for people who have big ideas, big goals, and see language as an excellent way to convey that and to find an avenue to express what's in their hearts. In my time, I feel like I've had the opportunity to do the same, and have been proud in my work in audio production and video production and all the other work I've done here to be able to help people express that and to express my own experience. Of all the change I expect to happen in the next year, I think one of the biggest changes is going to be my relationship to this place. It has been a constant in my life more than any other place on this campus. I may be back from time to time next year, being in Philly, I'm sure, maybe more than anyone would like, but I'll be happy to take any food and tea that's offered to me, and hopefully not do as I've done and sleep in every room of this house as I have over the past 4 years. So until I return, I'd like to give a very big thank you to Zach and Alli, who have been the best bosses I could have asked for, to Jessica, Andrew, and Al for just steering this place towards its lofty and incredible mission, to Jamie Lee for always asking me why I'm still here. And to my fellow students who have been with me since my very first days of my experience here at Penn, before I started classes. I think I had my first shift. And thank you, of course, to my family, who's way in the back, for supporting me for the past 4 years and all the years before. And a huge thank you to my sister for bringing me to this place 6 long years ago.
And that was Nick Seymour. Congratulations, Nick. Last but definitely not least, Becca Lambre. Come on up, Becca. And Jamie Lee Josselyn will introduce Becca, and then I will have a final word to say about how we're going to do the next part of this. So here we go.
Here is a letter from me and a letter from baby Becca for you. Becca, you have taught me that while hard work does, in fact, pay off, what matters most are the people. Becca's going to L.A., Los Angeles. It's in California. She will be a page for NBC, which is like the hardest thing to do. I actually read about it. It's like there's bagpipes playing somewhere, just like I practiced. It's harder to become an NBC page than like to get into any school that exists ever anywhere. I don't know. So I know an NBC page. But what's more important, the job in LA or the drive across country with your sister to get there? You're like literally leaving in like 10 minutes, right? She's like going. I would say the car is warming up, but I'm not going to say anything about warming up right now. A few years ago, you wrote, "There's a part of me that still dreams about booking it, leaving town, leaving school, and driving until I hit something that feels familiar, like bad, unpaved roads and tall grass that warns your ankles with nettles." I don't know if they have nettles in LA. And you are indeed about to book it, to the extent that you're substituting this ceremony for your graduation. You'll encounter those roads and that grass en route to the gig that's waiting for you, that you have worked so hard for. But I know what's more, I know that more than anything, you're going to be the best coworker and mentor and eventually boss and ultimately friend that anybody could have. Congrats.
Wow, I've been crying all day, and I never cry. This is crazy. It's really hard for me to know what to say here, partially because I'm last, so everyone has said everything that could be said about this place, but also because I have too many things to say. I have too many radiant and wonderful, glowing things to say about this place. I hate goodbyes, and out of all of the ones that I've had to say over these last few weeks, I think that this one is the hardest, because looking back over my 4 years, it is impossible to think about my time at Penn without the Writers' House. I have taken English classes in this very room. I have baked numerous trays of bread pudding in the kitchen with Perren before he was vegan. They were not vegan, and then once he was vegan, they were vegan. I have had first dates here, and I have done job interviews here. I even started to send my mail here after I had a banana slicer stolen off my front porch my sophomore year. I just picked up a few packages, actually, in the middle of these speeches. I was able to grow up because of the family in this house. To name just a few people, Jamie Lee is truly the reason I got into Penn, and she is also the only reason that I am managing to graduate. So big thank you. Alli Katz has given me countless pieces of professional advice, as well as countless numbers of tampons from her secret office stash. Jessica and Andrew have let me cry on their couch too many times to count, even though they have real work to do. Zach Carduner taught me how to code, and he also taught me how to send emails that verge on being passive-aggressive but settle in just right. Mingo and RJ are the reason that I was able to afford living in New York last summer, and Al has always had more faith in me than I have ever had in myself. My coworkers have been the ones to come to my rescue when things go wrong, as I'm sure people like Nick and Perren and Emily and Jamie are so very aware of. And also, I'm so sorry to Alli for every time you have caught me chain smoking in the parking lot around the corner. There are more memories and people I want to mention, but I also have to remember that some people in this room used to be my bosses, so I'll leave some things unsaid. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I would have been lost without this place in my life. I came to this school terrified and alone, and I am leaving it still terrified for what's to come, but I am certainly not alone because I will always have a home back here at the writer's house. So as I said earlier, I hate goodbyes. So to everyone here, this is not goodbye. I will just see you when I see you.
Once again, to parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, siblings, you put up with a lot, not just today listening to all the speeches, but in fact, as I suggested we would learn at the beginning, I think you realize that it's not just the person you came here to celebrate who's important and fabulous and is going to shape the future of, our lives. It's every one of them together. Imagine them all working together. It's astounding. So we need to put our hands together for the parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and siblings and friends and boyfriends and girlfriends. And now finally, before we break for that room, and there's also a tent outside, we're going to fling open the doors. This door will open. We have a really yummy, lunchy thing for you and champagne. Please stay and hang out and congratulate each other. What we want to do here is we want to call upon these seniors so we can look at them one more time together and put our hands together for them. Some of them have had to leave. Some are in the other room, so you won't see them stand up, but here they are. Fiona, Jensen-Hitch, Charlie, Sosnick, stand up, please. Torinn, Fennelly in the other room, stand up. Here they are, everybody. Navya, Dasari, Caroline Harris, James Fisher, Annie Fang, Emily Schwartz is right here, Mary Jesuthasan, Cole Bauer, Autumn Wynde, Emily Rush, Sabrina Qiao, Perren Carillo, Lilli Leight, Adelaide Powell, Izzy Lopez, Darby Levin, Nick Seymour, and Becca Lambright, the Writer's House class of 2019. We love you. Congratulations to all of you. And now let us eat and celebrate each other. Thank you for coming this morning.